For me, the purpose of the 4-week vacation is to prove that my business and my team can do the things it needs to give a great client experience without me having to be involved.
You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question. What has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the business psychologist, the author of the 4-Week Vacation and the How to Hire the Best series, as well as the founder of Tap the Potential, where we coach entrepreneurs like you to design sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. Because after all, we believe work supports life, not the other way around. Weekly on the Profit by Design podcast, we bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. Hey, profit designers, as you're listening to this, I'm on my 4-week vacation, but I did not forget about you. I wanted to keep you inspired and motivated with what's possible. And so I'm bringing you yet another 4-week vacation story. This is one that is so fun. This is John Briggs' story. His business is Incite Tax Works. He took a 4-week vacation in the height of tax season. So as this episode is recorded, it's from March 2019. He's 2 weeks away from his 4-week vacation. He and I talk about our mindset shifts that we both had to go through to get ready for a 4-week vacation. And what's really compelling about John's story is that in the final months, he was just down to the wire getting ready for his 4-week vacation. And one critical piece hadn't come together. He had a critical hire that he needed to make, and you will hear his story of how he solved this problem. What's also fun as I listen to this episode is that John was in the process of writing his first book, Profit First for Microgyms. That book is now in print. So that's one of the things that I love about going back to listen to these older episodes, especially with my friends and colleagues and our clients, and hearing the progress that they've made and the things that they were working on and the things they were in the early stages of and looking at where they are now in their businesses. So just know that for yourself, when you're working on something and you're just getting started with it, you may feel like you have a huge mountain to climb, but a few years from now, you may be looking back and saying, oh, yeah, I did it. That thing is accomplished. And the 4-week vacation journey is the same way. When you're starting out, it may feel like you have a huge mountain to climb, but it truly is a journey of those small steps forward taken in a consistent direction that lead to big change over time. So I encourage you, if you want to take a fully unplugged vacation, head on over to tapthepotential.com/pledge and make that 4-week vacation pledge and let us support you in making this a reality for yourself. So John, I'm really excited to have you here. I know you are just 2 weeks away from your 4-week vacation. How's that feeling?
It's kind of surreal. I mean, you work hard for something like this and then you still wonder because you've never done it before, the unknown, like logically everything's in place, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I remember for myself that it felt really good to think about I can be away for 4 weeks. And at the same time, the fear of, will this be okay? But kind of like what you're describing, the intellectual knowing that things are in place and the team is there and people can do this. They have been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that are pretty remarkable about what you're doing. So your 4-week vacation is set to start on March 15th, which is right in the height of tax season. And last I checked, you're an accountant.
That's still correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Still a primarily tax firm. Yeah.
So how did you get here? How are you making this happen?
Well, let's first start with the immediate aspect of it. So I'm a big fan of Mike Michalowicz and his books. And in his book, he did mention something about how cool would it be if an accountant tried to take a 4-week vacation in the middle of tax season. So there was that, because I felt like that was a personal challenge to me. Like when he was writing it, he was thinking, I wonder if John Briggs will do this. That's the way I felt about it. I'm like, well, I'll show him. I can do this.
So you like a challenge and you accepted that challenge. And I know what you're talking about, because when Mike writes books, we all feel like he's talking to us. I'm pretty sure he said the business psychologist needed to take a 4-week vacation. Are
Interesting.
you an accountant?
Yeah, he's really great. And then the other part of it too was, with the cycle of a tax firm, May and June are typically slower months, and a lot of accountants take off time during that time period anyways. But frankly, I felt like it would be cheating, because for me, the purpose of the 4-week vacation is to prove that my business and my team can do the things it needs to give a great client experience without me having to be involved. And if I took it in May and June, the opportunities for them to prove themselves are just so limited anyways, because clients typically don't bother us in May and June. And I don't know, just the world's been trained, I can't get a hold of my accountant in May and June type of thing. So it felt kind of like cheating. So I just thought, if I really want to prove that my business is capable of doing this, the best time to do that is in the busiest time that they would need me. And so we've worked towards that, and they've known about it. So ideally, hopefully, they're telling me that they're prepared for it.
Yeah. So how long have you been working towards this?
Well, I mean, really 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can't, actually might have been you who planted the seed at one of like a Profit First Mastery event where you started talking about the 4-week vacation. And then I was like, yeah, I should be able to do that. And if I can't do that, then really I just own a job instead of a business. And so we have had systems for many years, but it wasn't until that point where we started honing it in to, let's make sure these systems actually work. So we started reviewing 1 or 2 systems each week in our team meetings. We started adjusting them. We tried to get people to feel more accountable. We started implementing one-on-one meetings. We read this book called Meeting Sucks by Cameron Herold. It has a good structure that we've adapted to our own business, but like one-on-one meetings, which I know you're a big proponent of, things like that to help it minimize interruptions, and just slowly with the systems and debriefs, we've gotten to the point where people can function on their own without feeling like they have to ask permission. Now they feel like they own their responsibility as opposed to being a task rabbit.
Yes. And that's a big distinction between delegating a task and somebody just gets a task done and they're checking it off their list versus owning the task and owning the responsibility for the result. I think that's the critical mindset shift that we as entrepreneurs have to make when we are delegating, that we're communicating. I'm not just handing something off to you and you're going to check back with you to make sure it's done, that we're handing off a result. That person is responsible. And as we make that shift, it changes how we communicate with our team about that responsibility.
For sure. And I think part of the mindset too, especially as leaders, is, I don't know if everyone's like me. I know they're not like me, but when I have a team member come in, there is this element of just empowerment that I feel happiness by being able to give the answer to my team members, because it feels like you can rely on me, and you just did. So I have a question and I give them the answer. I get immediate gratification from that, but that will never serve me as the business owner if I'm trying to grow a business instead of owning a job, because they're always going to keep coming back. And so that's been, for me, the hardest shift over these 3 years, is not immediately defaulting to, let me answer your question, instead to ask, what do you think we should do? Or sometimes I have to, if it's a team member that maybe's asked me too frequent of questions, I'll just say, I want you to make a decision and do it. Don't tell me about it till afterwards, and you'll tell me how the result was. And I have to follow it up with, I trust you. I've said that a lot. I trust you. And it's hard sometimes because they're probably going to make the wrong decision, or the decision you wouldn't make, but nothing's put us out of business on any of these wrong decisions. And the growth that they've gotten from that experience has been monumental in our business getting to this point where I can actually take 4 weeks off.
Yes. So I just want to underscore those key words that you said. I trust you. Saying that over and over is critical in this process, because I think our team members, they intellectually get that we are trying to get them to be able to do things without having to ask us. But many of them have had experiences in previous jobs where they've messed up and people have come down on them really hard. And so there's a lot of hesitation to own the responsibility for the result and to do that thinking on their own. So saying that, I trust you, over and over, I think probably has a huge impact on their willingness to take on responsibility.
Yeah, I think you're right. In fact, I had a team member, I think just last week, she told me, she's like, look, I got to tell you something. And she closes the door. So I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, mentally prepare myself. This is going to be big. Is she going to quit or what? She's like, you remind me a lot of a family member in her life who maybe doesn't always respond well to her or make her feel good or maybe blows up at her. And she said, so there's elements of you that remind me of that. But every time I've made a mistake, you've always surprised me because you never react the way I'm expecting you to, like this family member in my life. Because I don't come down on her, right? You can't blow up on your team members if they make a mistake, or they're going to be so paralyzed to make decisions on their own. And so that felt really good because it's basically 3 years of effort of me trying to get to that point of being that person where people can make mistakes and I thank them for it type of scenario, you know?
Yes. And that's something that I've heard Mike talk a lot about, and I learned that from him too, is that when someone makes a mistake, you thank them. Thank you for trying. And now let's learn from it. I love that. And I want to put on my psychologist hat here a minute and just comment on what your team member is sharing with you. That's huge that she has that level of trust in you to confide something like that. That's something she's been dealing with for a long time. And that's trauma. And so many people have that kind of psychological trauma where people have, not responded well to them when they have messed up through their lives. A lot of us learn it in childhood, with critical parents or, or teachers or whatever. And we carry that with us into the workplace. And so psychologically speaking, it sounds like you've given her a corrective emotional experience.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. So, and why it's a big thing is because probably she's going to go on in her life from now on. She may always have a sensitivity to someone's going to get harsh with her or criticize her, but she's going to remember, you know what? Not everyone is like that. There are some people that are safe. I can trust them and I'm going to get a better reaction out of them. When you were starting to plan your 4-week vacation, and you said the seed was planted. And I want to comment on that. I love that because I am on a mission to make a 4-week vacation the norm for entrepreneurs. I want entrepreneurs to run into each other at parties and say, hey man, have you scheduled your 4-week vacation yet? Like, I want that to be the conversation. I don't want the conversation to be, oh my gosh, I'm working 70, 80 hours a week and I'm so tired and I can't sleep and I'm totally run down. I want to shift that conversation. So I love that seed was planted for you and that kind of got you going. When you first started thinking about it, what were you aware of that you thought, I know you get excited, but then the reality of, oh, I kind of have a journey I have to go on before I can do this. What happened next?
Well, yeah. So the excitement only lasted as long enough to think about what that actually meant. And for me, it was, 4 weeks off. Well, wouldn't that be darling? And then you're like, okay, let's make a list of all the things that I'm currently doing. And when you make that list, that was the first step. I'm like, let's make that list. I'm like, oh, this is a lot of stuff that I'm going to need to figure out to get off my plate. And a part of it is, unless you have the habit of delegating, you're not quite sure what to do. I know I had that. I was paralyzed, like, oh my gosh, other people are going to do this. I have to give up control. What if they don't do it as well as I do? What if they're not going to do it as fast as I do? What if my customers start? So you have all these questions, and I think John Bates calls it like the monkey mind right in the back.
Yes.
Just buckle that guy in him, tell him to shut up, but he's still there, right? So that was the first step, and then we just systematically did it. I would once a quarter make a list of things that I was doing, and I'd look at, okay, can I get this off my plate? For my business, that required key hires, which technically takes away from profitability in the short run, but in the long run, obviously it's going to pay off because then the business functions, but you have to plan for that, right? Cash flow livelihood. So I had to plan for kind of some investment into my business, knowing that I'm not going to be as profitable, so that I can get to the point where my compensation is time as opposed to cash. And that was important. But again, it was a process. So every 3 months I'd sit down, I'd make a new list, and then I'd work at it. And I definitely got to the point where I needed outside help because I just felt like I was blinded and not making any progress. And that was good to always get an outside consultant's point of view, because they're not married to your business the way you are emotionally, and they can see things without the emotion, which is most of the time a really good, it's really good for the owner to have that.
Well, and I also think that when you're bringing in a consultant or a coach, you're bringing in expertise, people who have taken others through the process. So it's not just that you have blind spots. There's some just things that we don't know. And that outside person can look at our business and say, okay, you can just shift this over here, and you don't have to do 20 things to get that to happen. You can just do this one thing and it'll shortcut. So when it comes to, I know your business is really strong in systems. So I know that as you started this process, you had the systems in place. So it sounds like for you, it was the delegation and being able to just give up that control, which was the biggest hurdle. And then the key hires and looking at how you're going to make that happen. So for me, when I started working on it, it was systems. I had I would call them skeletal systems. They didn't have many muscles. And so I really had to put the muscles in place in my systems. And I'm someone who very easily delegates. I'm more prone to delegate by tossing than to over control. So that was my challenge. And I think everybody coming into this is, we have our different strengths and weaknesses in our businesses that we have to grapple with to get to the 4-week vacation. Let's talk about your key hires, because that's a place where I know things got a little hairy towards the end of last year. And there was, it's kind of like the Super Bowl. And in the last, 2 minutes of the game, are you going to be able to pull this off? So, and that was around a key hire that you were struggling with.
Yeah. So the last biggest task that was on my plate that I needed to take off was being the technical reviewer for the tax returns. Before this year, all my staff accountants' tax returns landed on my desk. I was to finalize on it, even though they're doing a lot of the work. So I'm dealing with thousands of returns that I'm personally responsible for every year. And that took hours and hours and hours and hours every tax season. So I knew I needed someone who had the knowledge and experience. So they weren't going to be cheap, for one, and need to fit our culture. We have a very unique culture for an accounting firm. So those who are listening to this and don't see us, like this t-shirt that I wear, I have t-shirts and jeans, and that's my normal attire to work. We're just not a normal accounting firm. Very laid back. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So finding someone who has the experience and knowledge plus is going to fit in our culture, it was just really hard, because I made the commitment a year, like last year about this time, I'm going to take my 4-week vacation at the end of next tax season, period. It's going to happen. Okay, what does that mean? So I started putting out the job posts, and no bites. We just could not find anybody for this position. And so then okay, what I thought we had a great hiring system for doesn't work for this high level of person. So we actually engaged your company to help us with the hiring things. And that started with creating a marketing plan, which was awesome because it resonated with me, because we have a good marketing plan to bring in clients to our business. We never thought about it from the standpoint of we should be marketing as well talent and A players. So it was easy for us to do that once you helped us see that blind spot. And so we updated the website. We put together a really cool video. We have a career page now. And you actually referred us to another person who could help us, because we got to the point where what we were doing on our own still wasn't enough, and we needed someone almost full time to just push it along a little bit more. And yeah, so a month went by, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and we still have this job opening. And during those 6 months times, we had 3 people who made it far enough in the process that we're like, let's extend these people a job offer. And every time we extended them a job offer, they were also interviewing with other people. And like I said, we're unique as an accounting firm, and sometimes different is scary for people. We offer a very lucrative career path for people, but it's different. And each time these three people elected to go with a traditional firm or start their own business type of thing. And so now I'm thinking like, maybe our company just isn't as good as I thought it was. And so you have these doubts.
The gremlins.
Yeah, the gremlins, the monkey in the back. Anyways, but it turned out it's just a matter of finding the right person. And it took time to get our message in front of the right person, but we finally found them and we hired them last month. So he's been with us now for 4 weeks, following your system, which weeded out the possibility of getting a crappy person or someone faking their way through the interview. He is exactly what the interview process showed he would be, because the system, again, that you helped us set up, filtered them out, and he has been great. And so I'm super excited and confident nothing is going to drop off on that element because I'm not involved in it anymore.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that How to Hire the Best system is working for you.
Yeah.
That's the intent. It should be doing that. So because you said he's been with you for 4 weeks, and previously every other offer that you'd made to the candidates, they went with the traditional firm. What was it that made him say yes to your offer?
That is a great question. I mean, I'm not in his head, so I can only make assumptions here.
Okay, so yeah, don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Thing to talk to him about and ask.
Yeah, it would be. So all of the candidates, so the 4 that got to the point where we offered them jobs, all of them were dissatisfied with their traditional accounting thing, which is what our message was that they would see, that we ran ads for. You know, I think you saw the video. It starts with a boxer getting punched in the face in slow motion. So you see the cheek kind of indent and whatever. And then it's like, the text is, do you feel this way with your job, or something like that. So our message resonated with the people who were dissatisfied with their current job. 2 of them had the entrepreneurial dream, which is kind of a needed element in the way we grow our professionals and help them make a lucrative career for themselves, which is why it's hard to find those people, because most accountants are just happy to sit at their desk and not talk to clients and just plug in numbers. But we need our people to be able to just have human interaction. And so these other candidates, one, she just kept mentioning her business name. I even came up with a business name. I've been thinking about doing this for a year. And at the end of the day, she elected to go with starting her own business instead of joining us. The other guy I was interviewing was someone, and he was going to be a staff accountant and then supposedly be able to buy out this other guy as the owner. And for whatever reason, that feels more familiar. I think that's why the other guy went with that. And the other one I feel like was more of a desperation offer on our part before we had the right systems in place, and we lucked out and they just said no. So I didn't really put too much thought into why they said no.
I love that you say we lucked out and they said no, because you're recognizing that would have been a problem down the road. It might have gotten you through your 4-week vacation, but there could have been problems.
It would have been big problems. Yeah. And then for him, yeah, I just felt like the timing was right. He had enough of the entrepreneurial spirit, but not too much where he'd already thought about creating his own business. He was just completely burnt out and dissatisfied with the culture and environment he had there, and the constant changes, and none of the changes are ever in the employee's benefit. And then he saw our structure, and even within the first 4 weeks, just certain things, you can see him light up when we talk about things as for his career path. He's like, wait, what? Like, yeah, like I get it. Like, you can't get all the information in an interview process. It's just too much for somebody. But yeah, he's even more excited now than he was 4 weeks ago when he started.
Well, that's a good sign. Yeah. Because the excitement usually tapers off. So if the excitement is going up after the first few weeks, you're in the right path with the person. So, I'm having a thought as you're talking. You've had your other team members take our key employee survey. It might be really good to have him take that key employee survey so we can capture where he's really early in your process with you. We can capture what attracted him to this job and what it's been like for him the first few weeks, because that can then become part of your system. because I'm assuming you're going to scale now that you have this higher level hiring process and system figured out. And now we can tweak and hone and refine it. And using his insights will help you attract the next hire for that role.
It's a great idea. Totally going to do.
We'll do that when you're back from your 4-week vacation.
Okay.
So I want to back up a little bit because I want to comment on your process. So when you had that insight that, and pardon the pun, your business is Incite back. So when you had that insight that you could use your strength in marketing, because you are very, very strong in marketing and all your systems that you're doing there, and you could use that to hire. That was a big mindset shift for you, and it kind of helped propel you down the path of what you needed to do to get the right person. And then I also remember some of our conversations after we had gone through your key employee survey that we did for you. And there were so many comments from your team members about what a wonderful place it is to work, how it feels to work for you. And then there were some really good stories. As you and I were debriefing your key employee survey, there were some really good stories that started to come out that were not being captured in the video that you had initially created. So I'm kind of seeding here. Can you tell us about the golf club story?
Yeah, which was a great story. So I have a team. We give bonuses. We try to give bonuses at the end of tax season, but I don't like to do it in just the typical traditional way of accounting. So one of the first things our new team members do is they fill out what we call 101 Dream List. And it has a list of categories and a list of questions. Basically like, if you could travel anywhere, where would you go? If you could buy anything, what would you do? If you could learn anything, what would it be? Those types of things. And through that list, it gives me a pretty good idea of if I wanted to thank them unexpectedly, what they would appreciate. So one of the team members loves golf, and I saw on his list, I love golf, so anything golf related would always be good. I've always wanted a new set of clubs, blah, blah, blah. So what I did is I told him, I go, hey, I need you to come with me to a prospect meeting. So can you block out this time on your calendar? Yeah, no problem. So we get in the car, we're driving, and we recorded it after the fact. But anyways, so we're driving and we pull up and he's like, oh, this is weird. Are they located in this retail shop area? It's like, yeah, you'll see. And we pull in and we stopped and I said, hey, Lynn, I'm really sorry, but I deceived you. There's not a prospect meeting, but I want to take you in here and get you custom fitted golf clubs because I really appreciate the work that you did for me this tax season. And, he's a big Polynesian descendant type of guy. He's burly, but sweet. Anyways, I think he almost broke down, but he held it in. He was very appreciative and it was a great experience. So then he got his custom fitted clubs and I was with him during the whole process and then he was having a blast. And so we just thanked him for that. So he told that story, which we then later included in some marketing videos.
Yeah. And I think it's a key learning for us business owners, because when I heard you tell that story, I knew that was the tip of the iceberg, that you do stuff like that probably pretty regularly for your team. And so as we started talking about it, more and more things came out, like everybody works out together. And I thought, that's a little different. But none of that was being featured in your marketing video or that recruiting video that you had on your webpage. So this is the point I want to get across to our profit designers is when you have a great place to work, when you're a boss who really takes care of your team and you're looking out for them and you're really committed to their growth too, every day you're doing things in that direction. And some days you are doing wonderful things, big things. And many days it's just, you're appreciating them or saying thank you. But it's so much a part of the fabric of who you are, you don't really acknowledge it or see it as different. And what I want you all that are listening to hear, and hopefully you're hearing this in John's story, is that this is very different. It's very unusual. It's not the common experience for employees in a workplace, and especially not in a small business, to have that feeling. And so when you're trying to recruit, getting that uniqueness out and expressing that. And so that someone who's interested in working for you really does have a sense of, wow, this is a great place to work.
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted. So do you still have that video up, your recruiting video?
Yeah, that's on the career page.
I want to link to it in our show notes so our profit designers can take a look at that. It's a great example of, because you had to go back and recreate. You didn't have the video camera rolling when you took him to get the golf clubs. You weren't staging that. I mean, that was like, you never thought you'd put something like that out there on video. So you had to go back and recreate when you're creating the video, and you use some really good B-roll to tell that story and make it happen. Like it was really going on right there.
Yeah, and honestly, the video turned out great, but we didn't spend any money on it. Like we just recorded it with the camera, and then we recorded Lynn telling a story. And it's a software that comes standard on Apple computers, and we just cut the videos. Like, yeah, we didn't pay. Yeah, pretty sure it's iMovie.
Yeah, that's what I use all the time too. You're right.
Right. I mean, nowadays it's just so you can do easy things like that without having to pay a company thousands of dollars to do it for you.
Yeah. So now you have team, you have your systems in place. You're going to take your 4-week vacation. What are you planning to do on your 4-week vacation?
Yeah, people ask that. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, not really anywhere, because I am such a lover of the great indoors. And so a staycation is the best thing for me. I do have on my bucket list, I love college basketball, and I've never been able to go to the Final Four because it's always during the busiest time of tax season. So I'm going to go to the Final Four this year. I have my hotel and plane tickets already set up, and I'll go with my kids on spring break, which I've never been able to do in the past because that's always been during tax season. So those are the only two like actual vacations, but I like to stay busy. So there's other things that I'm doing. I'm writing a book. I have another couple businesses that I own, so I'll spend some time working on those. But it'll be good and relaxing, and I won't be hostage isn't the right word because I love my clients and I want them to have a good experience, but I won't have to deal with their client needs for 4 weeks.
They will be taken care of.
Yeah.
And you will be able to relax and recharge and pursue some other things that are important to you. So tell us about this book that you're writing, John.
Well, so I've contracted with Mike Michalowicz to write a derivative book. So it's going to be Profit First for Microgyms. A microgym is basically anything that isn't a Globo gym, like a Gold Gym or a Vasa Fitness or 24-hour. Those models are more like they sell access to equipment. A microgym generally has coach-guided classes. So it's going to be Profit First that works for those because it is different than the generic book Profit First. And so there's some nuances that they should know about. And that's, I've been in that process already, but it's really hard in the middle of tax season to get too much time to write it, but I'm trying. So I'm in the process, but I'll have more dedicated time while I'm out.
Absolutely. So we probably have some microgym owners listening to this. Do you have any resources that you want to share that you could, I know the book's going to be a little while coming out, but that might be helpful to get them on the path with Profit First?
Yeah. So if they email me, john@incitetax.com, which is incite as in to incite a riot. That's how it's spelled, INCITE, tax. We have a 5 free day challenge. And what that challenge does is it breaks up 5 days in a row, 5 to 10 minutes of instruction and work that they need to do. At the end of the 5 days, they've run an assessment on their business to see kind of the cash flow health of where they're at. And it's free. They just need to email me and I can get them the link to sign up for that. And then it's not necessarily cash flow related, but a lot of microgyms always have the question, how should I pay my coach? Should I pay them as a 1099 contractor? Or should I pay them as an employee? Because there's a lot of opinions out there, and all those opinions are based on nothing other than opinions, and people saying their own opinions for years and years so much that they don't think there's any other possible way. We actually, with all of our experience, have real data to back up our suggestions. So we provide a checklist for them so they can just go through the checklist and determine if their coach should be a contractor or an employee.
Fantastic. That sounds like a really helpful resource. And I want to save you a little trouble. If you shoot me the link, I'll put it in the show notes. That way, while you're on the 4-week vacation, you don't have to check email.
My assistant will be monitoring my email, and she knows which ones go to who, and nothing will get missed.
Fantastic. Good deal. So, John, I really appreciate your time with us today and the insights that you've shared with us. I think for our listeners, kind of as we close out here, some final words of wisdom. If somebody is just getting started on the path of the 4-week vacation, what would you offer to them as some encouragement?
It's possible, and stop listening to the gremlin mind or the monkey mind, and just put one step in front of the other. First step, make a list of all the tasks you do and figure out how to get them off your plate. And rinse and repeat every 3 months. Or if you can do it quicker, great, do it quicker. But I feel like 3 months for me was a good pace, so I didn't feel pressure that I couldn't get my other work done. That, to me, was the one foot in front of the other. So I'm like, I don't know how to digest this elephant. Well, just take one step. And you first have to find out what it is you need to get off your plate. Start there.
Yeah, that reminds me of when we were at ProfitCon, we heard one of the speakers talk about if you just do one system a week, what impact will that have on your business in a year? And so I think, for me, it was just one thing a week that I tried. If it was on my plate, I tried to figure out how am I going to get it off. So, and I like every 3 months, the rinse and repeat. That's a great way to do it too. So, all right, John, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey there. I loved listening to John's interview. It was so inspiring. And one of the things that I heard him say is that he took the 4-week vacation as a challenge. I encourage you to think about that. Take it as a challenge to yourself to see if you can do it. Can you be the one that does this? Can you be the trailblazer in your industry when you're at your industry conferences and you're talking about your successes and you say, you know what? This was the year I took a fully unplugged 4-week vacation. Like, how cool would that be? And that's part of our vision at Tap the Potential to disrupt hustle culture. We know that the more of you trailblazing entrepreneurs who are out there in the world taking these fully unplugged vacations and sharing it with others in your industry, you are inspiring them with what's possible. And that's what it's really going to take to disrupt hustle culture. You can have a business and you can have a good quality of life. So if you want to be one of those trailblazing entrepreneurs who's setting an example for others to follow, head on over to tapthepotential.com/pledge. Take the 4-week vacation pledge. And when you do, our team is going to reach out to you and celebrate you. And we're going to find out where you might feel challenged and what support you need. And we're going to offer you resources to support you. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So head on over to tapthepotential.com/pledge. Thank you for spending time with me today. Join me in our Tap the Potential Mighty Networks community at tapthepotential.com/group. Share your aha moments from today's episode, ask me questions, and join in on the fun with your fellow entrepreneurs on the journey to designing sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. Isn't it time you take your life back? And finally, share today's episode with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this.